Well, good morning and good afternoon or good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is the Jira Work Management for All webinar hosted by Expium and myself. My name is Jason Kidner. I'm a solutions architect here at Expium, also a SAFe program consultant and a certified Atlassian professional. I'm going to be your tour guide through some various products and processes with Atlassian tools. So we have a pretty straightforward agenda today. We have a brief introduction, some thoughts about making work, better ways to work, and some Atlassian tools. Then we're going to show you some different examples of Atlassian tools and processes using those tools that hopefully you'll find beneficial no matter what team you're working on. And at the very end, we're going to have time for questions. I'm also joined by one of our project coordinators, Bailey, who's going to be helping to field questions. And so save up your questions, put them in the Q&A part of this Zoom meeting, and I will do my best to answer them at the end. Right, well, let's jump into just some introductory thoughts. So this webinar, as you know, the title is called Jira Work Management for All. So we definitely are going to talk about that Atlassian product, and I'm going to demo that for you. But this isn't just about Jira Work Management, the product. Over the next hour, I'd like to show you an array of tools and processes that will hopefully make your life, or your work life easier no matter what type of team you're on. So what does a better way to work look like? So here's just a few thoughts. Better way to work is where your work is made visible for both you and your teammates and potentially other stakeholders in your organization. A better way to work is when you have clear next steps in your processes. So everyone's aligned on what's happening and what's going to happen next. There's also the idea of making work collaborative. So you're all have your roles and typically you're working on as teams, and you need to work together and be able to hand off work easily and communicate things very easily. So how can we make our work collaborative? And then the tools question comes in. You want to be able to use tools that are flexible and can change quickly as your environment changes, as your work changes. And then lastly, there's the shifting your mindset from doing more work in less time to generating more value with less work. So really that whole idea of getting value for you, for your team, for your customers. So focusing on value and getting more value done with less work. So before I go to tools, and a lot of this we'll be talking about tools here in the next hour, want to bring up this idea of people, processes, and tools. Okay, so you need all three of these things. These are key for whatever you and your organization are doing. And I'm showing you these three things in this particular order because people are foundational, right? You need people, you need good people, whatever type of work you're doing. So those people are foundational. And then processes follows. Processes that focus on value, that focus on collaboration, okay? And so good processes need to be in place. And then ultimately you need flexible tools that can support and not hinder you and your teammates and the processes that you've put in place that you think are really good. You don't want your tools to kind of interrupt those and make life harder or hinder your work. So there's this idea that you know, tools can be great, but they can't solve your people or your process problems. And I don't know how many times me or some of my colleagues come in, we consult with companies, and they're looking for Atlassian products to help solve things that are really more process or potentially people related. So really tools are wonderful, but you really have to have people, good processes in place. And then the tools, hopefully, as you design them, as you use them, in really helpful ways, they will just help make everything that much easier. So with all that in mind, we're going to turn our attention to the great tools that the Atlassian ecosystem has to offer. So there are a number of Atlassian tools. These are just a few of the products that they offer. These are the ones we're going to focus on in this webinar. There are other really great tools out there as well that we focus on in other webinars in our series. So overall, Atlassian tools are ubiquitous. They're likely already in your organization. We work with a lot of business teams who are ready to purchase an Atlassian product, and then they're surprised to find out that their organization already has some Atlassian tools somewhere that they can already leverage. So really for these teams, it's just a matter of getting up and starting to use these tools, to customize these tools specifically for their needs. So we often find that software development teams or IT teams in your organization are using some combination of these tools already, but they can very much be used and benefit all sorts of different teams, from HR to legal, you name it. Any type of team can benefit from these Atlassian tools. If you don't have them yet, they are very inexpensive. Overall, they're really easy to get started with. They're very customizable and scalable as well. They're ultimately designed for teams. They're designed to help teams collaborate well, to communicate well. They're flexible and scalable. So a few things here. You'll note first we have the Jira suite of products. There's Jira Work Management. It's kind of like the foundational Jira product. Then you can add on Jira Software. A lot of companies just start with Jira Software because it already comes with Jira Work Management packaged into it. So Jira Software, where your software teams might be using it, or any other team could be using it to do to benefit from Kanban boards or Scrum boards. Then there's Jira Service Management, which is great for IT teams, but as you'll see in this webinar, it's great for all sorts of teams to be able to have a service desk for inputting for customers, whether they're internal or external, to input tickets for you and your team to work on. Then there's Confluence, which is a collaborative wiki-style documentation tool. And lastly, we have Trello here, which is a board-centric tool that more recently came into the Atlassian ecosystem, and a lot of different types of teams are using this and finding value with Trello. So ultimately, these tools are all great on their own, but when you pair them together, they can really help you and your team work smarter. They can provide knowledge sharing, help you design collaboratively, help you to track your work together, and then effortlessly report on like whatever audience you need to report on. You can provide reporting, especially in Confluence, as we're going to see. And I guess some final things to say about these products is there's not some specific module. These aren't some module of some larger package. They're each unique product that fit together in a whole framework. So you can kind of pick and choose, and they all work together to build exactly what you and your team needs. And one final point to make, these tools are not meant to replace other systems that you already have, like your HRIS or other like main financial tools you have in your company. They're here to help fill the gaps, especially on the work tracking, on the collaboration, on the reporting front. So, and they will provide a great foundation for those sorts of things. Okay, now we're on to some examples. This is really the bulk of this webinar. So we're going to look at 5 different examples here. We're going to look at task management. That's when we're going to talk about Jira Work Management. We're going to talk about project management, hiring and onboarding, a specific use case for hiring and onboarding that we did with one client. Then we're going to talk about service desks and how they can be used, again, for any type of team. And finally, we're going to talk about documentation and just the centralization of information, primarily in Confluence. So first, we're going to talk about task management. So you'll start to see a theme here of what we're going to focus on. So let me go back here. So who can benefit? Who is this really focused on? Well, it's focused on everyone, right? Any type of team is dealing with work that has a workflow that, it comes in, you're working on it, and then ultimately you're trying to complete it, okay? No matter what team you're on. So the problems that teams run into is, what do we have to do? Like how do we know what I'm doing, what you're doing? Is everything up to date? Do we all know kind of where things stand, what the status of the work is? And then who's taking care of the work? Like, who's assigned to it? Who's responsible? Am I responsible? Are you responsible? So making, again, the work visible. And the solution ultimately is a central task management that has multiple views, multiple ways for users to see that, and ultimately to move away from spreadsheets, right? We come in and we start to work with a lot of different clients, especially business teams, that their life is spreadsheets. And they're all on spreadsheets, maybe all simultaneously editing them. And it's just really hard to get the views and the reporting and the workflow kind of updates that they want to see in a spreadsheet. So some tools that could help. I'm going to show you Jira Work Management. Jira software could also be really helpful for this. But we're going to zone in and look at a Jira Work Management project. So I am in one of our Expium demo instances here, and I'm going to go into one of our company managed business projects, otherwise known as a Jira Work Management project. So I'm going to click on accounting. And if you haven't been in to see one of these business projects in a while, there's been a lot of UI changes. Atlassian has definitely invested in this Jira Work Management. It used to be called Jira Core, now called Jira Work Management. So there's a lot of different views here. It looks a lot different from a Jira software project or a Jira service management project. So initially you have a board view. Again, somewhat similar to the Kanban board view in a software project, but it's a lot less customizable and it's really focused on your workflow and the statuses in your workflow. But you can move your issues from one column to another. So you have a board view. There's also a list view. This is unique to Jira Work Management. This is going to look very much like a spreadsheet view. So those teams that are used to working in spreadsheets, it won't be that much different, because ultimately Jira, the database, you're bringing in the data into fields, into the database that can be organized here like a spreadsheet. And what's cool about this is you can edit these in line, just like you could with Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. So there's a list view out here, and you can show all the different fields that you have on your screens. You can organize this, customize this. There is a calendar view, which again will key off of the start and due dates on the issues within Jira Work Management. And it's going to highlight kind of how these extend. Sometimes they might just be one day. But if you have start and end dates, or due dates, they could extend over multiple days here. So that gives, again, a different view of the work that could be helpful for some of the folks on your team. There's also a timeline view. This is very much like the roadmap view you might start to be using within a software project board, or maybe in advanced roadmaps if you're using that in Jira Software Premium. So this is your timeline view that could show you different levels of your hierarchy, from epics down to tasks. This project is just set up with tasks, but it could show you other things here. There's also a forms option. Again, this is unique amongst the different other projects in Jira. So this forms allows you to basically, we'll just look into one of these. It allows you to create kind of a basic form that's kind of like essentially like a create screen of sorts that you could share with other users in the instance. And it allows, again, for intake, just an intake option here. Then there's pages, which shows quick links over to Confluence. If you have Confluence integrated with your Jira instance, you can show those pages over here that are linked to a specific Confluence space. And then you have the opportunity to go and see all the issues in kind of more of a standard issue view that you're used to if you're using Jira or Jira software, and a few other options here. But again, you can start to see here how this type of project, this is again, it's a different product that you can get separate licenses for, separate from Jira software. But if your organization already has Jira software, Jira Work Management comes with Jira software, so you don't need a separate license for that. But you could see where you could stand up one of these business projects here and benefit from a lot of different features that you can't necessarily see in a software project. Okay, so that's a little bit about task management with a focus on Jira Work Management. Okay, let's next go to project management. So project management, who is this for? Well, again, a number of different types of teams. It could be PMO teams, HR, marketing, I mean, really anyone who manages projects in your organization. So what are some of the problems that teams run into with project management? Well, whether you're doing one project or multiple projects, it can be very difficult to keep track of the work that many teams are doing and how all those teams are collaborating, especially when there's a lot of different handoffs from maybe one team to another team, or even within a single team. Alignment usually comes in the form of standing meetings or manual status reports. So teams might have to meet just to keep up and give status updates. So additionally, things are tracked in Excel or PowerPoint, which can make collaboration and visibility more difficult. And especially if there's a need for lots of manual updating of those different slide decks or spreadsheets. Another problem that we find is knowing where's the right information to even start a project. So those are a couple of the pain points we run into with clients. So the solution at a high level is to make your project work more visible. It is to make it easily modified as a team and to allow potentially some automation with your reporting. So not have to manually update reports, but to let the source of truth potentially be in Jira or whether a software or work management project, and then to be able to report on that nicely within Jira or potentially over in Confluence. So we work with teams that just meet all day long, and it's hard to get work done when you're constantly meeting and asking for updates in a meeting, where you could potentially have those updates shown in a tool that has real-time updates, real-time visibility, and it could really help cut down on your meeting needs. So the solution in Atlassian tools, we're going to look at Jira Work Management, or actually in this case, we're going to look at Jira software. You could use Jira Work Management as well. And we're also going to show you how Jira software can integrate with Confluence for some really cool reporting options. So for this, I'm going to jump back into our demo instance. And here we're going to go to different project. This is our marketing project management. So imagine here, this is a place for the marketing team to manage their projects. They have multiple projects taking place. And those projects in this Jira project are represented by epics, by the epic issue type, which within Jira is this higher level of issue type that can be the parent of things like stories or tasks. So we often see teams using epics for these projects that tend to span a month to maybe a quarter, maybe even longer. So, and right now I'm brought into a board. Again, this is a Jira software project. Again, it has very different look and feel from that Jira Work Management project I showed earlier. So you can have boards out here. This is a Kanban board, and I have the epics that represent the projects. And then there's tasks out here as well that are out there parented by an epic, and those tasks are there to show you what things are to be done in order to accomplish those projects. And if I go into one of these epics, click on one of these cards, and I see the view screen, and I can see a lot of information here. I can see some custom fields. around the background of the project, the business objectives, scope, assumptions. This could be, you could, again, set this up exactly the way you want to set it up. I can see the children issues. There's a milestone in here and a number of tasks that need to be completed to complete this overarching project. I see there's some mentions over in Confluence. We're going to go there shortly. And then on the right side of the view screen, we have things like the people working on the project, the stakeholders, the dates related to the project, priorities, other custom fields that are more of the small finite bits of information within Jira. So that's some information around my project. It's being worked on by different folks. It has a number of different tasks and a milestone related to it. While we're here in Jira software, just note that there is a new roadmap view of the issues that you've brought into your board, and that could come in handy, especially when you're dealing with multiple layers, issue layers here, where you have your project represented by an epic, and then you have tasks underneath it. This is another nice way to view the work and how it's organized. Some teams, if they have Jira Software Premium or Enterprise, they can also use the plans or the advanced roadmaps option up here. And I'll show you that that shows up as well in Confluence. So there's a couple different ways to visualize the work within your projects here in Jira Software. So, but then what if you're tracking your work, you're creating these issues over here in Jira, but you then want to organize it nicely for reporting purposes for your team and other stakeholders within your organization. Okay, so I'm going to jump over and show you how Confluence can really give you some robust dashboarding options. So I'm switching over to the Confluence instance that's integrated with this Jira software instance. And Confluence is organized by spaces. I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty of Confluence, but I'm going to jump into one of the spaces called the marketing space. So this is kind of tying in again with the marketing Jira project. It's related and it's corresponding to that. So what I want to show you here is if we go over to some of our team pages, each of those epics that were in the Jira software project that represent one of the projects that the marketing team's working on is also represented over here by a page that's been created. So I'm going to go into that Project Alpha page that, again, is related and is essentially a dashboard for that project. And as we'll see here, it's going to bring in a lot of information from Jira. So you're not having to manually update this. There might be some places you do, but a lot of it's coming directly from Jira as the source of truth. So in this project dashboard page, there's a couple of macros in here, like a team calendar that allows your team to put different events happening, or maybe they're on vacation. So you get a sense as a team, when are people on and off? There's a lot of cool macros here. This is one that we'll show you shortly that's represented in more of a summary page where you can show status. And this is actually something that would be updated manually within Confluence. If I scroll down, I can start to see here some reporting options where it's bringing in data from Jira. So these are different filters of information coming from Jira, and I'm just highlighting them in a filter results with different fields shown. There's even a pie chart option available from some of the underlying data. So I can break out these into the current work, work that's been completed over in Jira. Can bring in other information like milestones and deadlines. This is actually, let me refresh this. This is meant to show some of the other fields on that epic. So you can bring in different fields specifically from, here we go. I think this is starting to show it now. Yeah, here we go. So there's other details of this project, again, represented as fields on an epic in Jira. So I'm bringing over that field data. So if it's updated over in Jira, it's going to in real time update in this Confluence page. And then if I scroll down further, there's a place to put attachments on this page and to represent those. So a lot of cool options. This is, again, just scratching the surface with what Confluence can do. And so I have, as we can see here, there's multiple projects being worked on by this marketing team. They can each have their own dashboard. And then there could be a larger overarching project dashboard up here represented as a parent page to these projects. And this is utilizing some of the cool bells and whistles within Confluence. So I'm basically creating this summary chart here of all the underlying projects. This is representing these pages, these children pages here under this page. And I'm seeing a lot of information very quickly, again, coming from the underlying pages. And again, some of this stuff is coming over from Jira. So this is just a nice high-level summary for some of your higher level leadership to quickly see how are each of these projects doing? What are some of the information about them? And then if I scroll down, I can show all of these projects also coming over from an advanced roadmaps plan. So you can share an advanced roadmaps very nicely within a Confluence page. And I can't edit things in here, but this is an interactive embedded view of an advanced roadmaps plan. So just another view of all the projects and the underlying work being done with the statuses. If there were dates out here, those would show up as timelines, kind of like a Gantt chart. So a number of ways to highlight information, whether it's in Confluence, another Confluence page, or whether the source of truth is in Jira. You can show a lot of great information over here in Confluence. All right, so that is just, again, a couple of ideas of how to use some of these Atlassian tools for project management. So I'm going to take a quick commercial break before we look at our last 3 case studies. So again, this webinar is being hosted by Expium. I'm a solutions architect with Expium. Expium is an Atlassian Platinum Solution partner. So we have a couple of areas of expertise. We do training. We offer trainings like this free webinar series every Thursday. We also have a number of public, larger trainings that aren't free, like our Jira Bootcamp and Confluence Bootcamp. We're also starting to offer Jira Service Management Bootcamp. So those are our public options. We also have a lot of options for private, the clients that we work with, that we engage with. We can do trainings for any of the Atlassian products that you're working with. We have a lot of great expertise in-house to cover any of those things. So including the bigger products like Jira Align, that takes a lot of training, and even getting into some Agile at Scale training as well. So a lot of training that we offer. We also have consulting, whether that's, again, for Atlassian products, all sorts of different consulting, from implementing Jira or Jira Service Management or Confluence, to coming in and you have specific needs around cleanup or a specific new product you're trying to customize, or whatever it happens to look like. We can come along and work with you from any type of level of effort that you want to work with. So consulting, and then we also have a custom development solutions as well. We have a sister company called Oasis Digital Solutions that have full stack developers. So we can help you with any special reporting needs you have, any add-ons, custom integrations, custom front ends, whatever you might need related to your Atlassian products or other things you're working on as an organization. We can certainly provide some really great development expertise as well. And it's not noted on the slide, but we do offer licensing services for Atlassian products at no charge. So we do that with a lot of our clients. We act as the middle person, as it were, to help with all sorts of licensing needs. All right, so that's a little bit about who we are. So let's move on now to our third use case. This happens to be for a hiring and onboarding use case. So who is this for? Well, it's not just for HR teams, though that might be the main team that might use this, but it's really anyone who has an onboarding process. So the problem here, there's a couple of different problems. So every team has a unique need when it comes to onboarding, and those onboarding, the processes might change over time. So we're going to show you a specific use case of an onboarding workflow for an insurance company that we worked with. This insurance company had to hire thousands of people each year, and there was just a lot of coordination needed for onboarding tasks, and there were various teams involved with these tasks, and they were syncing with external systems as well, and they all had to meet the insurance industry compliance. So a lot of information that needed to be filled out along the way. And this particular team was stuck in spreadsheets, which again was making collaboration and the work visibility very difficult. So the solution, again, at the high level was a tailored workflow, actually a couple tailored workflows to provide the clear next steps in the onboarding process. And these workflows, though I'm not really going to show you all the back end kind of cool things that were done, but there's a lot of automation and integration with these workflows to other systems and even other parts of Jira that were allowing the spinning up of new issues within Jira, auto assigning, things like that. So a lot of cool customized workflows for this. And then ultimately the visibility that you then get from either Jira or potentially Confluence for the onboarding process. So again, some of the tools that could be used for this, I'm going to show you Jira software, but Jira service management could also be used for this, allowing for the onboarding process and the needs for teams to get an intake for tickets that are needed. So either of these tools or a combination of them could come in really handy for this. So let's jump back into the tools themselves. Here I'm going to switch over, go back to Jira, and we're going to look at a new project called the Onboarding Project. Okay, so we're first going to look at a board that's our tier 1 onboarding board. So these, as it says, these are highlighted. There's issues out here with a specific issue type called the tier 1 issue type. And you'll note that each of these, the summary of these issues is the person that's being onboarded as a tier 1 employee. So this is kind of like fresh in, freshly hired and being brought into a specific role. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on one of these cards and see there's little information here. What I really want to focus on is the workflow. So I'm going to go to the status dropdown where I can see the workflow. All right, so this, again, the workflow has a number of different steps. That's the one great thing about the workflows in Jira and Jira in general is you can see exactly where a work item, in this case, the work item is a person that's being onboarded. You can see the exact status of where that work item is and the other transitions that are available, the other places that work could go. So in this case, again, we're talking about a person being onboarded. So they would start off in recruited, then go to scheduled, then to training, where they're being trained on whatever their role is. Then there's peer mentoring, again, making sure that they're just getting some peer review and maybe learning from a more seasoned employee. And then ultimately they're good to go, okay? And there's other places here where maybe the person came in and they were scheduled to be onboarded and they withdrew. They didn't want to work there anymore, or maybe they were a no-show, or somehow along the way it just was becoming clear to either the employee or the organization that this was not a good fit and they needed to be terminated. So there's just some options along the way. And what I'm not going to walk through this workflow, but there's opportunities in any Jira workflow for a lot of customization where you could auto assign the users when they go from one status to another. They could switch to another assignee. So again, handing off responsibility to the next person to do the onboarding. There might be somebody, again, who's doing the peer mentoring, that's different from who's doing the training. So that could be automated. There's other cool automation opportunities around like task creation for phones and laptops to make sure that somebody else is, who's dealing with getting that laptop ready for that new employee, that something ends up on their project, on their board to work on. There could be required fields as you move from one status to the other, again, to help meet those compliance needs. There's also just history tracking. There's an audit log in each of the issues within Jira software. And then potentially you could have integration with some of these to an outside product like your HIRS. So a lot of cool opportunities here. We build custom workflows like this all the time for our clients. So this is the tier 1. There's also, I'm not going to go into depth here, but there's also a tier 2 board that has a different work item called the tier 2 issue. And if I click on one of these work items called the tier 2 work items, again, these are people, but this is going through a totally different workflow. So we can just view this quickly, where this is the onboarding workflow for tier 2 employees. So this might be employees that, again, they're already working for the company, but they're being recruited from one department to another department or to a different role within a department. So they have a slightly different workflow. It's a little bit longer, as you can see, where there's some schedules. There might be certifications needed in this role. So there's testing involved, then they become certified, then there's maybe some more advanced training, or they skip over that to peer mentoring, and eventually they're good to go. Move that back. So again, this is kind of like taking a user from one role, potentially as they're being promoted within, and they have to go through a whole different workflow. Again, that could have its own automations built in. So again, just one example of an onboarding work process that was built for a specific company. And this, again, was used to onboard thousands of employees a year to keep up with the compliance needs, to make sure everybody was aligned, to see where new employees were onboarded. You can see that very nicely in a board here, like we see within this Jira software project. There's a board for those tier 2 employees. There's a board for tier 1. So anyone can come out here and see exactly where these employees are in the onboarding process. And this, again, could be potentially shared over in Confluence as well. Okay, so let's move on. Got 2 more use cases here. The next is about service desks. So service desks, when you think about that, you might be thinking, oh, that's more just for our IT teams or facilities. But really, service desks could be used and provided value for all teams, okay? HR, marketing, legal, I mean, really anyone. Any of your teams ultimately is providing a service, whether it's to an outside customer or to an inside customer. You're usually helping. There's usually some sort of customer involved, okay? So the problem here that we find is many teams that are service teams in a company, even though, again, they don't feel like it, but there's different channels of intake. There might be emails, your boss knocks on your door if you're working in person and says, I need this, I need help with this, doorway conversations, people calling, all sorts of different channels of intake. And then when all that's happening, there's no clear way to track it. There's no clear prioritization of all that work. So you're not sure if what you're working on is really the most valuable thing to be working on right now. And again, despite your best efforts, the services that you're providing, again, it might be just kind of a black box, and the person that needs your help has no idea what the status is or when something is going to be done, and the communication lines are not really clear. So again, there could be just a lot of cumbersome, like being asked for updates in a lot of different ways. So the solution at a high level, again, is a service desk within a tool. I'm specifically going to show you the Jira Service Management tool. So a service desk that provides a clean intake form and keeps the requesters or the customer updated automatically, so they're always going to know exactly where the request is, and they can communicate back and forth with the team. And then there's these really nice things called queues on the back end in a service management project that can help your team work and know who's working on things, what the priorities are, even things like how to respond in a timely manner with things like SLAs. And so the solution in the tools is something, again, that we've built for many different types of clients. It's centered around Jira Service Management. Confluence could also play into this because there's some nice integration between Jira Service Management project and a Confluence space to show knowledge-based articles to users that could help deflect some of the questions or the requests that they might have. You could show them an article that could help meet their needs, which is great for them. It's great for your team. So there's less work to try to manage. So here I'm going to go back into our instance, and here we're going to look up a Jira software project. Let's go into a service management project, make sure I'm in the right one. And while I'm getting ready for this, just a note of caution that Service Desk, like any piece of technology, can be used in an impersonal way. So we definitely want to make sure that we're empathetic to users. If you're the person on the back end that's designing these or interacting with customers. So just want to be mindful that you are working with another human being. So there's always that caution. So bear with me here. I'm going to get set up. All right, so we're going to go in to the HR Service Desk. And I'm going to bring up, this is the back-end view for your team that's managing. This is the queue, so that your team would be seeing, and there's different queues you can bring in. But what I want to highlight is what the actual service desk looks like. So here's the customer portal view of the service desk, and this is highlighting that you can have multiple service desks within one instance of Jira Service Management. So there's an IT one here, an HR, a facilities. So I'm going to focus in again on the HR service desk to just highlight that these can be used for non-IT teams. So when I come out here, there's a couple of knowledge-based articles I come to right away. This sort of thing can be set up in your service desk. So I can click on FAQs and get some quick views into articles that are coming from Confluence. But maybe those don't answer my question, and I ultimately need to raise a request. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to see different request types that this HR team is offering. I'll just do a simple one here, just do a question for HR. And each of these can be customized with different fields that are required or not required. Again, up to you. And what we'll see here, and I can raise this on behalf, well, if I'm an agent, I can raise it on behalf of someone else, but typically this will just be filled out automatically. And then you can start to type in your request. Maybe I need to make a name change in the records of the company. And notice Jira Service Management is trying to suggest, think about some articles it could suggest to the customer to deflect the creation or the submission of one of these tickets. So, but let's say, no, that doesn't exactly get what I'm looking for. I do need to submit this question. How do I make a name change? And I'll go ahead and send this. And this is creating what's called a ticket on the back end in Jira Service Management. But again, as the customer here, I can see what I've submitted. I can see the status. I can comment on it if I want to add some more information. I can always add more information. I can attach other files onto this as well. I can share this with other users in my company as well. And then I can also go up here at any point and I can see my requests. Maybe it looks like I've got a few out here. I can see various requests that I have in across multiple service desk projects. I can see the status and the summary. So again, and then I can open it up and see this view from a customer point of view. But then on the back end, your team would be working on queues. Let me refresh this. there's a couple different queues. Here's one that's all open and unassigned or unassigned to me. So let me go ahead and refresh this to make sure I see the one that just came in. And this looks like it's, let me make sure it's viewed from the created, sorted by created. So here we go. So I've sorted this. Now I see this name change ticket that I submitted. See the reporter hasn't been assigned yet, but these, when I click into it, maybe I'm the one to take this particular ticket on. And I can see information around what was submitted into the portal. I can see other fields that I can start to add. I can see knowledge base articles that Jira Service Management thinks could be helpful for you as an agent here. And then I could look at that. That might help me to come up with an answer for this particular user. So, and these could have their own workflows. They have their own SLAs, time to first response, time to resolution, things like that, that can help you as a team kind of manage expectations and help to see how you're doing as a team in responding to your customers. So a lot of cool opportunities here. Again, we set these up a lot for different companies as either for internal work tracking or for outside customers submitting tickets. So a lot of different cool ways to use Jira Service Management, again, for any type of team to help with your intake of work. All right, let's switch back to our final use case. And this is around centralized knowledge. So the real focus of this is going to be on Confluence to really be a portal for information. Who is this for? Again, it's for any team in your organization. All sorts of teams use Confluence, or all your teams are using, it could be Confluence, or you have other external knowledge tools, whether that be SharePoint or Google Drive or Box or something like that. But Confluence can ultimately help be that kind of one initial point that you go to find out information across all sorts of different knowledge bases in your company. So again, the problem is teams use many different tools. There's lots of different sources of information, and it can often be hard to find exactly where to go or where is this information stored that I really need to get to. So again, Confluence can become that ultimate portal for knowledge. Again, it doesn't have to, all the information doesn't have to be stored in Confluence, but Confluence is a great place to link to point you in the right direction. So let's go over and look at Confluence one last time. So here, I'm going to just stay in this marketing space. And let's look at a few other pages here. The first one I want to highlight is this team homepage. Again, if you're setting up spaces around teams, it's great to have a homepage where you can talk about what does your team do, what's your motto, maybe you have the latest updates, like on the pages that are in your space, what are the latest page updates. You can also talk about where to find us, how to communicate, maybe how to submit tickets for support, or maybe you have videos, things like that. There's lots of opportunities for linking, again, to all sorts of different places in Confluence or outside of Confluence. You can have a meet the team section. We saw this calendar view, this team's calendar view on another dashboard page, but you can certainly have this in here to help outside either your own team or people from outside your team that want to know more about your team. They can kind of get a sense of your availability. There's also this section over here called frequently used resources. This is, again, just lots of links. Confluence, again, is a great place to be like that signpost that helps to say, here's where our brochures are, or our logos for marketing, our swag for marketing, or documents, or other company resources. This could point to another Confluence page, or it could point out to your Google Drive or SharePoint or Box link. So a lot of cool things there. So again, highlights a lot of different, just scratching the surface on cool ways you can do the look and feel of these Confluence pages. But ultimately, the power is pointing users in the right direction. A couple other pages here to highlight to just show that Confluence can have built-in embedded views of outside tools. So this is one example of a new product plan your marketing team's working on, and they're using Miro to plan out a new product. So cancel that. So here we're just embedding a Miro board into a Confluence page. So a lot of cool out-of-the-box integrations with Confluence and other tools like Miro. And if Confluence doesn't have the integration to a tool you're interested in, there's typically going to be an add-on in the Atlassian ecosystem that you could use to get the embedded or the real tight integration that you're looking for as a company or as a team. So Miro is just one example of that. Another example is maybe your team is also using Trello. Like a team doesn't necessarily have to be out in Jira working. We can show a board from Trello inline in a Confluence page. So this happens to be a page that your team's working on getting ready for a trade show in Las Vegas this year. So your team may be using Trello to highlight all the tasks that you need to do to get ready for that trade show. And this is an interactive, probably more so interactive than the advanced roadmaps I showed, but you have your to-dos and you can say, well, ordering uniforms, I'm going to move this to in progress. And if you haven't seen Trello, this is a little teaser of Trello where you have these boards with different columns that you can add different columns or what are called lists. You can add new cards into a column, move these cards around. You can also click on a card, and there's lots and lots of different ways to update these cards, adding labels, adding other members onto these, checklists, attachments, custom fields. Then you can take action on them in different ways. So a lot of really cool ways. A lot of business teams we work with use Trello for different things where they keep track of like tasks or projects, things that have to be done maybe over and over again. You're getting ready. You have all these events in a given year, and you have a similar list of tasks that you can kind of work on over and over again. So, and then you can show this inline in a Confluence page. And I think lastly, let me see if this has anything, add prices. So I believe this is bringing in, showing inline how I'm bringing in a Google Sheet in here. I'm also bringing in a Google Doc inline. So again, just a couple of ways you can have some really tight integration with other tools outside of Confluence. So we are wrapping up here. So again, just wanted to highlight again that this is showing a lot of different tools from the Atlassian ecosystem. Oftentimes your organization's already going to have these in place. Some other teams are going to be using these, but your team, as a business team or a software development team, whatever type of team you are, there are some really great opportunities to use Atlassian tools to help you, again, with your people, with your processes that are in place, those tools that are flexible, collaborative, scalable, to help with all sorts of different needs you might have. And again, these tools, they're not meant to replace other systems you have in place, like your HIRS. They're, again, there to help fill gaps for reporting, for work tracking, things like that. Before we get to our final section of questions and answers, just want to highlight this slide. I'm going to keep this up while I answer questions. So if you're thinking about questions, please put them in to the Q&A part of this Zoom meeting, and I'll do my best to answer them. But just as a way of wrapping up as well, here's my email address, jason.kidner@expium.com. If you have any follow-up questions about what I've talked about here, about some of these tools or some of the processes that I've shown, please reach out to me. You also know how to reach out to our general Expium channel with team@expium.com. We also have a number of upcoming webinars and classes, including our Jira Bootcamp, our Confluence Bootcamp. Those are coming up next week. We also have other webinars coming up, again, every Thursday. There's also a service management bootcamp coming up in 2 weeks. But then we have various other webinars around cloud migration, There's a few Jira Service Management webinars if you want to learn more about those and really see some more demonstrations of the features in those products. And then we have a section around portfolio management and even Jira Line. And there's also a Confluence webinar that just took place. And if you can't make these, we do record them and we put them on our Expium YouTube channel as well. So there's a lot of great material out there, including these webinars and other how-tos and other kind of just interesting things to know about the Atlassian ecosystem. All right, so any final questions as we wrap up today? Okay, here's one question that came in. Do you offer training on the tools that you showed today? The answer is yes. We do train on all of these products, Jira, Jira Service Management, Confluence. Again, we have boot camps, public boot camps. There are some webinars that you can attend live, or there are recordings of those to just get again a teaser of how those products could be used. We also do private classes with customers, so you can engage us for your team, or maybe multiple teams need to be trained up on a certain Atlassian product. So yes, we can certainly customize and work with you. And we really ultimately try to teach you to fish so you can run with these products and make the most of them yourselves. So yeah, thanks for that question. So another question here is, how can I find out what our organization already has? I think you're meaning about Atlassian tools. So if you're not sure, I mean, you can always probably ask around internally what other products, Atlassian products may already be used. Typically, those are maybe starting off in your IT teams with service management, or potentially with your software teams as well. Again, Jira, a lot of software development teams are using Jira and Confluence potentially already in your teams. So, but if you're not sure, you can always ask us. We can certainly use some of our connections with Atlassian to find out, is your organization already using it? Again, we do handle licenses, and we can really, again, provide licensing at a great discount, but we can certainly help you to know if your company's using it or not. And if it's not, we're here to help, to engage with you, to help start up one of these products or multiple products to work really well together. Okay, well, that's all the questions that have come in. Again, thank you very much for attending this. I hope it was valuable for you and you had some aha moments on how to use these various tools from Atlassian to help your team work better. So again, thank you. This will be recorded. You should get a link for this recording, and you can also, again, love for you to sign up for one of our other upcoming webinars or check out our YouTube channel to get a lot of great information as well. All right, well, thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. Bye-bye.